Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to another Destiny 2 video. Today's video is all about what loadouts I use in Vault of Glass. We're going to be taking a look at all three classes, and I'm going to show you the weapons and loadouts that I use at each stage. Now obviously this can change as new metas emerge and we get new buffs and nerfs from Bungie. However, if this video helps you guys out, let me know and I will make them as the meta does shift. And I do set up all of these Vault of Glass weapons in DIM as a separate loadout just with the weapons that I can use on any class. So it makes it really easy to switch over when we do all three in one night. So first up is the Hunter. Now on Hunter, I do run Blade Barrage and Shards of Galanor. Now you could choose Golden Gun too, would work perfectly well. But this is mostly for the final boss fight, but I do tend to just run it completely throughout. When I'm running raids, I like to keep my loadout as similar as possible so I don't have to keep switching out mods and switching out armor pieces. It just makes it a lot easier to get through it faster. So we're running Middle Tree here, and I prefer Incendiary Grenade, but it doesn't really matter. Our exotic armor piece is our Shards of Galanor, and for most of the raid our armor mods are going to stay the same. We've got Reactive Pulse with Ashes to Assets, which is an artifact mod. I'm using Overload Submachine Gun because there are some overloads in this raid, and Charged Up, which is going to give me an extra charge with light. Then on our chest piece we've got Taking Charge with Grenade Launcher Reserves and Concussive Dampener. You can also put Sniper Damage Resistance on here as well instead of Concussive Dampener. This helps for the hobgoblins that are standing out in the platforms during the Confluxes phase. And then on our legs we've got Global Reach for our Warmind cells, and this is a raid piece as well, so I've got Vex Destroyer on here, but it doesn't really matter if you want to pick a raid mod or not. And then on our cloak we've got Breach and Clear. This is super important for Anarchy, or if you're using Wither Horde or a legendary grenade launcher. This is going to help debuff the boss, so I pretty much keep this on the entire raid. And for the door opening phase and the Confluxes phase, these are the weapons that I usually use. I use something like Chroma Rush with Subsistence on it, and I have an Aikilos with Subsistence on it, which both work really well for Confluxes because you're just killing a lot of ads, and then you can save your Blade Barrage for the Wyverns. Make sure you have some sort of overload weapon. For me, that's my Aikilos. And then for our heavy weapon, we have Anarchy. Now, if you don't have Anarchy, you could use a legendary grenade launcher and then go ahead and put Wither Horde on here as well. Wither Horde is really great for the Confluxes because you can just pop Wither Horde spots down in all of the different spawns. And that is going to do it for the first two areas, door opening and Confluxes. Now we are on to Oracles. For Oracles, we're going to switch it up and run Xeno. This is because Xenophage one-shots the Oracles. If you don't have this weapon already, I would highly recommend grabbing it. It is great for Vault of Glass raid. In addition to Xeno, we're also going to run the Aikilos SMG and a scout rifle. I've got the Hung Jury. This is to deal with those hobgoblins. Now you could one-shot them with Xeno if you have enough ammo, but on our arms we're actually going to put anti-barrier scout rifle. This is going to allow you to shoot through the hobgoblins' little immunity phase that they go into. The other armor mod changes we're going to make is Grenade Launcher Ammo Finder. We're going to switch to Machine Gun Ammo Finder, and then on our chest we're going to switch to Machine Gun Reserves as well. Now if I really wanted to optimize my gear, I could take off Breach and Clear because I'm not running a grenade launcher and put a couple other mods on, but because I switch back to grenade launcher pretty quickly, I just leave this as is so that I don't have to change as much stuff. And that is it for the Oracles phase, and now we're going on to the first boss fight, the Templar. For the Templar encounter, we're going to be switching back to Anarchy, and then for our energy weapon, we're actually going to be using Cartesian Coordinate with Vorpal Weapon on it. We also want to make sure we have boss spec. You could also use Null Composure. You can also use a shotgun as well. But I've noticed with the Templar fight, sometimes we aren't right up in his face, so it's nice to have the fusion rifle option. And then for your primary, it doesn't really matter unless you are like hot swapping and doing the shotgun thing. You could put a primary shotgun on as well. But basically you just need something to shoot oracles with, something to shoot the boss with, and something to debuff the boss with our Anarchy. I'm staying Blade Barrage, but you could switch to Golden Gun like I said. And then we're going to go ahead and change our two mods back. So we've got Grenade Launcher and Grenade Launcher Reserves. For the Templar, Concussive Dampener can be really great in here to give you a little extra resistance to splash damage. And this is my Hunter's Templar setup. Alright, so once you beat the Templar, you're going to come across the Gorgon maze. Now you could just go through it normally, don't really need to switch out or have a specific loadout for the Gorgon maze. But if you want to, you can switch to your Void subclass and pop on Bottom Tree. This will allow you to use your Smoke Bomb to invis your entire team as long as you guys are grouped up. So that can help as well during that. So now we're onto the Gatekeepers phase. In the final boss room, we're going to switch back to Aikilos. I normally hold one of the portals on the outside, so I like a lot of ad clear for the few Vex that spawn, and then there's an overload, so we've got our Aikilos for that. We can debuff him with Anarchy and then finish him off with whatever we got. I do keep Blade Barrage on. It doesn't really matter, whatever's most comfortable for you. Again, you could run a legendary grenade launcher if you don't have Anarchy, and then go for Wither Horde. This loadout would work really well for holding the portals open on the outside. If you're going inside, the strategy is pretty much the same. You're going to be ad clearing as well, so use whatever works for you for ad clear. If you're going through the portal and you're having trouble with the Praetorian, you can also use a grenade launcher with blinding nades in order to slow him down before the relic holder gets in there. On to the final encounter for Hunter, we're going to Atheon. For the Atheon encounter, I run Hung Jury. We're going to swap back to our Cartesian coordinate with Vorpal and our Anarchy, and then this is my boss battle loadout. As you can see, not much changes with my weapons. I swap a couple out here and there, and we're good to go. I run a scout rifle here for the oracles. If I am teleported, then I'll use the scout rifle to team shot the oracles. You'll need to have 2 people shooting if you don't have Xeno or something like that. We've got the fusion rifle for Atheon boss damage, and then we've got the Anarchy for our debuffs using Breach and Clear. And then in the boss fight with Blade Barrage and Shards of Galanor, you want to make sure you're killing a supplicant while you're hitting Atheon. That seems to be the most consistent way to get your super back quickly. But during each DPS phase, you should be getting multiple Blade Barrages to shoot, so make sure you tick Atheon with your Anarchy and then use your Blade Barrage and then follow up with your Fusion Rifle until your next Blade Barrage is ready. Tick with Anarchy, repeat, just keep cycling through those 3. Alright, that's going to do it for the Hunter loadout. Let's move on to Titan. For Titan, it's really simple. We're using the same weapons in each phase as we did for Hunter. However, if you wanted to use Crown Splitter for some of the ad clearing phases like the door opening and the confluxes and oracles, you could. But for our subclass and super, we're going to be going with Thunder Crash here. I like to use the Pulse Grenade, and we've got the Cuirass of the Falling Star. Armor mods are going to be pretty similar here as well. If you're running the Crown Splitter, you're going to want to put on Lucent Blade if you have it. And the only other time you would switch off of Cuirass of the Falling Star with Thunder Crash is if you're running a Bubble Titan, and then you would just switch to Helm of Saint. We would switch over to our Sentinel Tree, Top Tree for Bubble. And if you're using Bubble for either Templar or Atheon, make sure you put on Magnetic Grenade because you're going to be able to throw these a lot and they will stick to the boss. But that's it for Titan. Same strategy as the Hunter for all the encounters. Last up is the Warlock. Same strategy applies. Same weapons for the phases like I showed you guys in the Hunter loadout, but for the Warlock subclass, you're either going to want to use Well or a damage super depending on how many Warlocks you have in your group. If you're the only Warlock in your group, you're probably going to be using Well for a majority of the fight. And it's a good idea to throw on Lunafaction Boots. This is going to extend the range if people are using shotguns to damage. If you have multiple Warlocks and you don't need a Well, you can also go with a damaging super like Chaos Reach, Middle Tree Arc here, and then swap out your boots for Geomag Stabilizers. This is going to help you get your super back quickly and does a pretty good job melting Atheon. You could also use Boots of the Assembler for some of the ad clearing phases if you want to help buff your teammates with health or damage buffs. Or you could use Phoenix Protocol if you're using Well during some of those ad clearing phases. If you are running Well Warlock for that final phase, make sure to boost your discipline and throw as many solar grenades as you can because they do a lot of damage to Atheon. You would actually be surprised. Again, the armor mods are going to be pretty similar. For Atheon, you may also want to run Fusion Rifle reserves, especially on Warlock if you're running Well, because your Fusion Rifle is going to be your main source of damage in addition to your Anarchy. But that is basically yeah, the other classes kind of fall in line with the encounter loadouts that I mentioned on Hunter. So if you're skipping ahead to these classes, you may want to go back and check those out. But that is how I run Vault of Glass raid on all 3 classes. Hopefully this helped you guys out. I just thought it would be a great way to help people that are new to the raid and want to know what weapons and what subclasses they should bring. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.